Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with this channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. For that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled. What does that mean? That means if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you need to subscribe to the channel. Now, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter since the very beginning or just recently. I really appreciate all the love and support all of you have given me. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media. And I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter in your devices. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to either catch it live or catch it on the playback. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I have never done a stream this late on a Tuesday night. Okay. However, I happen to be a supporter of the Radical Latino, and he had an interesting stream. The topic of the stream was regarding Latinos being unalive by the police. So it was an interesting discussion. There was a great deal back and forth. I would highly recommend that you check out the stream. I think that the stream is still live, or check it on the playback. Okay, so that being said, you know, uh, it was, it was, in my humble opinion, worth the time and the energy. Okay, and if you agree with the radical Latino, disagree with him, he does bring interesting topics to discuss, and he does support his topics with facts. So that's something that we all need to bear in mind. Okay. Um, this stream was originally aired for 8:15 p.m., but it's okay. Maybe I'll do better at this hour. We shall see. So, in any case, what we're going to do is we're going to have a session of In My Words. Okay. I do have a few things to talk about. First of all, earlier today I did my motivational message, which the topic was accountability. Okay. And the reason why I chose that because um, every responsible, mature adult will make decisions and will have to deal with the consequences, some of them good, some of them bad. However, the mature, responsible adults will take accountability for the actions, whether it be good and bad. And depending on the nature of the consequences, it will lead to others to take other steps, which is why I'm going to be discussing this thing tonight. Okay. Now, I have tried to take accountability for my actions because at times, I'm going to keep it real, I have made poor choices. I have made poor choices when it comes to my friends. I have made poor choices when it comes to relationships. I have made poor choices in regarding people that I have associated with. So what I did is to simply accept the fact that hey, I screwed up and took accountability and made the appropriate changes that I need to make. Okay. And one thing that we do have to bear in mind, um, there's been a lot of noise regarding the upcoming presidential elections and things of that nature. Um, I'm going to give you my humble opinion. Both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have major issues. Okay. Of course, I was growing up as a child. Um, I was taught that the Democratic Party was the party of the poor people, and the Republican Party are the party of the rich people. In reality, there's basically more or less variations of the same party. And one thing I also noticed when we have these primaries, what happens is the following: the Democratic Party would lean to the left, and the Republican Party would lean to the right. Okay, which basically what end up happening is we end up picking deciding either not to vote or to pick the lesser of two evils. Okay, only solution to that is we have a viable third party that can challenge the other parties. Okay, but if we're going to have a viable third party, we're going to have to support them both with our time and our energy and with our money. Okay, and find a good candidate, third party candidate that we can support. So that being said, I I'm just going to we're going to get into the main topic. As you can see on the thumbnail, the topic for tonight: can a leopard change his spots? Okay. Now, some of you are probably wondering what the heck is he talking about? Okay. I am talking about something that some people don't have and some people don't acknowledge is accountability. And there's a question: do people want to change their ways? Do people are people able to see the certain aspects in their lives where their way of thinking, their way of doing is not deemed correct? Okay. And when I mean deemed correct, okay, I understand that we do evaluate things differently, common troops. Okay. Okay. For example, if you harm somebody, chance the, the you go to deal with the consequences of which might end up going to jail, and if found guilty, you might have to serve time. Okay. If you're unfaithful to your spouse and it becomes known, well, what happens is the following: that trust that took perhaps years to develop within a relationship or a marriage is severely compromised and sometimes beyond repair. Okay. If you take your hand and you touch the flame, you're going to get burned. So these are the things that I'm going to be talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss with all of you 7 steps that you need to do if you are truly serious about changing your behavior, changing your conduct, or changing your way of thinking. Okay, and they are the following: number one, accountability; number two, desire to change; number three, develop a plan to resolve the problem; number four, apologize if you have to; number five, avoid negative influences; and number six, treat it as a step. Now, I'm going to give you some information to think about. Okay. It all stems from the belief system as a Christian, where um, you have to take accountability for your actions. In Christian terminology, acknowledge that you sin, acknowledge that you have, that you have missed the mark, so to speak. Okay. Number two is to have the desire to amend your ways. In other words, you're not going to continue the path making inappropriate actions, inappropriate words, or inappropriate deeds. And number three, you're going to implement certain philosophies, certain changes that are needed in order to reach out. Okay. In theory, every person that's mentally alert and has a conscience has the ability to do these things. The question is, however, do people actually want to do these things? Okay, that's something that only you yourself can answer. I cannot answer that question for you. In fact, no one can answer that question for you. So that's something that we all have to bear in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the first step, which is accountability. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is just give me a moment, and I'm going to look up the word accountability because what I like to do is give definitions. Okay. Now, accountability in a noun is the fact or condition of being accountable responsibility. Okay. That is in the form of a noun. Okay. Now, what does it mean to take responsibility? It means the following: when you are personally accountable, you take ownership of what happens as a result of your choices and actions. You do not blame others or make excuses, and you do what you can to make amends when things go wrong. To become more accountable, make sure you're clear about your roles and responsibilities. Okay? Now, the reason why I define the word accountability is it is very important that we have that understanding because that's going to be the building block that is needed in order um, to take accountability. And when it comes to accountability, there are 3 things to consider. Number one, you need to admit that you have a problem, or maybe let me amplify in this fashion. You need to admit that you have a problem. You need to admit that you made a mistake. You need to admit that you're erred, that you swerved left when you should have swerved right. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is to acknowledge that you have a flaw. To acknowledge that you made the mistake. Okay. In other words, you're not going to blame friends. You're not going to blame your economic status. You're not going to blame your ethnicity. You're not going to blame your sexual orientation. You're going to own the actions that you have taken. And the third part is to accept that you are wrong. Okay. And it all stands by accountability. Okay. If you're not accountable for your action, what you're gonna do is you're gonna blame others. You're gonna blame your friends. You're gonna blame your family. You're gonna blame your spouse. You're gonna blame the job. You're gonna blame everything but yourself. So that's the reason why the key, it's a very important key, is to acknowledge when you mess up. Okay. And the reason why I'm devoting this much time, because this is the first step. This is the building block. This is something that's very important. In order to improve yourself and amend your ways. So the next thing is you have to have the desire to change. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to um, use the sacrament of reconciliation, which is a Catholic sacrament, which is confession. Now, the reason why I'm choosing this terminology is to illustrate a point. Okay, when a person confess their sins, they have to acknowledge that they sin, and they have to give examples. They don't have to go into a 20-hour dissertation, but they have to acknowledge that they failed, that they sinned. They have to acknowledge that it was their own choice, and you have to acknowledge that yes, I want to change. I don't want to keep committing the same sin. I don't want to continue committing the same action that led me to the choices I made. Okay. So number two is you have to have the desire to change. Okay. And there are the following elements involved with it. You have to have an understanding that you have a problem. Okay. In fact, um, when it be AA or drug or um, alcoholic analysis or food any support group, whether it be for support for those who are addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to sex, addicted to food, addicted to many things. The key, the first step is to acknowledge that you have a problem. That's the first step. Number one. Okay. Once you are at that point, when you are no longer trying to pass the buck, that you're no longer trying to pass the guilt, no, you are owning up to this action. You are owning up to what you did, which means the next thing that you need to do is you need to define the problem. Yes. And why do you define the problem? In other words, you must describe it in details. Okay. Now, when a patient goes to a doctor because the patient has an illness or an ailment, the doctor is going to ask you for a description of the symptoms. So what you're going to do is you're going to give your symptoms. You're going to tell them what you're feeling, what have you, things of that nature. and how it affected you, whether it be affected your sleep habits, your eating habits, your daily routine. Once you provide the physician with that information, the physician is able to prescribe, whether it be medication or whether it be practices for you to address the problem. So you need to define what is the problem. You need to define what is the flaw. You need to define it and own it. Which leads me to the third thing to consider, keeping it real. Okay. Now, what do I mean by keeping it real? I mean, look, what you're going to do is you're not going to try to sugarcoat it. You're not going to try to pretend that it's not there. What you're going to do is you're going to keep it real and you're going to acknowledge what is the problem. Okay. So that's step number two. Now let's look at this carefully. Let's look at this carefully. So here we go. First of all, you have taken accountability for your actions. Number one. Number two, you have expressed a desire to change. You haven't expressed a desire to not to repeat the same action, not to repeat the same words, okay? Because you realized what you did is wrong and you want to change. Okay. Which leads me to the third step. Develop a plan to resolve the issue. Now, what does that mean? Okay, basically, what you're doing is you're planning a strategy where you are able to analyze the problem. You're able to think it through and take a course of action, which will lead you not to perform the same action. Okay. Now, one thing. Now, depending on the nature of the issue, okay, if it's a psychological disorder, or is it a mental disorder, or if it's a physical ailment, you may need to seek outside help. Okay, and that could be in the form of a doctor, that could be in the form of a therapist, that could be in the form um, of a counselor. Okay, and so depending on the nature of the problem, it would dictate what is the appropriate source. Okay, and like for example, you're not going to go to a plumber if you seek legal advice. Okay, you're not going to go to a baker to cut meat. So you're going to go to someone who is a trained professional to help you to deal with whatever is the issue. Okay. Which leads me with the next thing, which is very important. Be honest. Okay. Now, if you're not going to be honest with the professional, whether it be a doctor, whether it be a therapist, whether it be a social worker, whether it be a guidance counselor, if you're not honest with that person is not able to assist you to deal with the issue that you have. Okay? It's the same thing when you go see a doctor. Okay? If you do not explain to the doctor what is the symptoms that you're dealing with, what's ailing you, what's troubling you, the doctor cannot assist you. So it's very important to be honest with the doctor or with the trained professional um, regarding the issue that you have. Which leads me to the next thing. Be willing to act on the advice. Okay, so let's also break it down. You recognize that you have a problem. So you decided to seek outside assistance. Okay, you have shared with the trained professional your problems, your issues, what have you. So based on the feedback that that person receives from you, that professional is going to give you some steps to take in order to deal with the issue. Okay, like for example, if it's a doctor, the doctor is going to it's going to prescribe you medication, or the doctor is going to instruct you regarding a change in diet and a change in routine. If you see a therapist, the therapist is going to help you to focus on other ways to deal with the issue. Okay, so it's very important. Again, I cannot stress this enough. You must be willing to act on responsible advice from the physician. Okay, when I mean responsible, in other words, advice that's gonna help you to focus on how to deal with the problem, and which leads me to the following thing: follow the advice. Okay, what does that mean? It means exactly what it means. Okay, like for example, if you go to a therapist and the therapist discovers in his or her analysis there's certain behavior traits that are not productive, their therapist is going to advise you not to repeat those actions, not to repeat those words. Okay. A physician is going to give you medication, or it's going to give you uh, a change in diet or certain practices to help you to address those issues. Okay. So it is very important that you follow the advice of the trained professional. And let me just state for the following as an FYI. Make sure that if you're going to go seek a professional person, whether it be a doctor, whether it be a therapist, whether it be a social worker, whether it be a guidance counselor, whether it be a case manager, make sure that you do your research as far as getting a competent individual to assist you. The worst thing you can do is get someone that's incompetent, and then you follow the advice of an incompetent person. And what happens is not only um, have you not changed your ways, but then you have developed even additional bad habits. Okay. Now, sometimes our actions can lead people to be hurt by our words or our deeds. Okay. Again, let me just illustrate the example of the per, of whether it be the man or the woman who is unfaithful to the spouse. So what happens? The issue is the trust is severely compromised. Okay, because whenever one of the spouses or the one of the partners is unfaithful, it creates insecurity and mistrust. And then the question is literally, well, is this person going to repeat the action again? Can I trust this person? So that's why it's very important when you are in a relationship, do what you can to be faithful, which means that if If you have performed an action that's caused hurt, you need to apologize. So, what you may need to do, reach out to those that were hurt by your words or by your actions. And you need to be humble enough to admit that what you said or what you did was hurtful. And what you're going to need to do is apologize. Okay. And that is very important. Okay. Because remember what I said before that the fact of the matter is, it is very important to acknowledge when you messed up, when you screwed up. That's very important. Okay, very important. So, in the case when people that you have hurt or people that you have betrayed, what you need to do, what you need to do is acknowledge and confess and say, you know what, I erred, I screwed up, I apologize. I see that my words and my thoughts hurt you, and sometimes it can leave scars that could last for years if you do not address it. Okay, so it is very important that when you have performed actions that have been very hurtful, is to reach out to those who you hurt and apologize. In fact, I believe, hey, Irby, it's okay, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. The topic for tonight is, can a leopard change his spots? So basically, the whole point of this discussion is the fact that there are people who have made poor choices in their lives, and it has to do with taking accountability for your actions. Okay, so that's the reason why. And I really appreciate you uh, being here. Okay, so at least I'm not talking to myself to hear myself talk, think, talk, or have you. So you need to reach out to those who you have hurt and acknowledge and apologize. And particularly in the case where your words or your actions has caused harm, you need to show by your actions that you have changed your ways. Okay? Unfortunately, we cannot undo the harm that we've done. We cannot go back in time and pretend like it didn't happen. What we can do is acknowledge when we hurt someone and show by our actions that we're not going to repeat those hurtful words or those hurtful actions because we care about the other person. Okay, and that's something not everyone can do, but those who are fairly mature, that their conscience is intact, they will do this. Which leads me to the following step that you need to do. Avoid negative influences. Okay. Good evening, Keisha. Thank you very much for stopping by. Yeah, I understand. You know what? Um, I push it back because I wanted to support Radical Latino stream tonight. Okay, so you're more than welcome to check it on the playback. Okay, so now let me explain to you what does it mean to avoid negative influences. There's going to be certain people that do not have your best interest in heart. That's going to try to lead you to take actions or words that is going to try to not have you be responsible or accountable for your actions. Okay. And yet they're going to have people that's going to try to steer you away. Okay. What you need to do is to be mature enough to accept the fact that there's certain people that you're going to have to avoid. Okay. And sometimes it can be rough. Okay. Excuse me. It can be rough because perhaps you might form a bond with some of these people or some sort of attachment. You have to love yourself to the extent that you're going to disassociate yourself from any negative influences. Okay. And I have done more than my share with certain individuals here in these YouTube streams. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's been certain individuals that used to visit this platform that basically I have to show them the door because there were negative influences and also the inability to accept accountability for their actions. Okay, because you have to have a certain amount of self-love and self-respect to only surround yourself with people that's going to be a positive influence in your life. And sometimes you may have to separate yourself from family. As painful as that is, sometimes you're going to have to separate with people who are your friends. Okay. Sometimes you have to separate yourself from certain co-workers. Okay. Because of the fact that they will try to lead you into an inappropriate path or set of actions. And of course, I have a couple names for these individuals. Okay. I cannot take credit for this term. I think Denise said it very well when she was referring to the circus. Okay. And the circus is a collective of certain individuals which act inappropriate, do inappropriate things, and will try to lead others into their stupidity. Okay. Last year, I had another term for these people called the mentally and intellectually challenged. Okay. Or the mix, as I like to call them. They're given other names, slow taps, okay, and things of that nature. In other words, these are people that used to um, appear on this platform or that I socialize outside this platform, of which Because of their conduct, I had no other recourse but to not associate myself with these individuals. Okay. And also not allow this individual access to your personal life. Okay. And this is very important. Okay. And the reason why it is important is the fact that once you allow these individual access, next thing you know, you're going to be acting similar in some other ways to them, which is why it's very important to disassociate yourself from certain individuals that will lead you not to take accountability for your actions, that will lead you to take poor choices and what have you. And I have seen it with my own eyes. People getting involved with entanglements with people that were not appropriate. I've seen people get into relationships with people that were not appropriate. So believe me, I've seen quite a bit. And at times, the only thing you can do is just sit back, let them take their actions, and then they will inherit the fruits of their actions. So that's the reason why you must avoid negative influences from these people. Do not interact with them. Do not allow them access to you or to your personal life. Okay. Now, one thing that I've learned to do is certain aspects of my personal life. I'm not sharing here. Okay. Because unfortunately, you have certain individuals who would try, and I repeat, try, um, to gain access, not for their for well-being, but for their own um, purposes. And sometimes it could be to cause you harm. So you have to be very careful of who you interact and who gain access. Okay. Now I speak to many people in these YouTube streets, but I'm close to a select few. Okay. And it has to be that way to protect yourself because unfortunately, it's like the wild, wild west here in these YouTube streets. You do have some people who will act foolishly, they'll argue and scream and carry on and on and on. Okay. Which leads me to the next thing. Treat it as a learning experience. Now, let me explain to you what does that mean. Okay, it means the following. Okay, you have you have taken accountability for your actions. Okay, you have expressed a desire to change. You have developed a plan to implement to make this change possible. You apologize to the people which you have hurt. You have decided to avoid negative influences. So, by treating it as a learning experience, what you're doing is the following. You've gone to the stage where you follow all the steps, okay, and you are in a different light. You see people that are making similar, okay. So what you are able to do is you're able to share with someone else um, just a general view regarding what was the flaws, what was the mistakes, and you can share. I wouldn't say share everything, but share the basics. In other words, you have a problem, okay, you expressing a desire to change, you develop a plan to resolve the problem, you apologize, you avoid the negative influences, and now you're able to treat it as a little exercise. So you share in the hope that other people will not make the same mistake you made. Okay, with that hope. So, and there's certain people where you're going to be able to share. There are others that you're not going to be able to share. It all depends. I would not share this with everyone because not everyone is going to value your experiences. Not everyone is going to be reciprocal to what you're going to have to say. See, you're going to have to be selective regarding who you share the experiences. Okay. So, in other words, what you need to do is practice discernment, which is a Christian term. Okay. Now, let me just give me a moment. What I will do is I will look up discernment. Okay. I just want to let everybody know that I pinned the link so anyone is able, if they wish, to join the panel. Now, here is discernment in the form of a noun. The ability to judge wow. Okay, that's what it is as a noun. Now, let me just explain to you what it means in Christian context. Perception in the absence of judgment with a view of obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding without providing for a time of healing and discernment. Okay, okay. Let's okay. Let me just give you the true meaning of discernment. The quality of being able to grasp and comprehend what is obscure. So what you're going to do is you're going to discern everything. Okay, you're going to discern the people that you approach. You're going to discern your environment. You're going to observe your environment. You're going to see whether or not it is safe to walk down the street, or this thought, um, this plan that you're thinking. Is it appropriate? Is it edifying? Is it going to get lead to a positive result? So when you share it with someone who is receptive to what you wish to share, what you're doing is you sharing your experiences, and hopefully that person will not make the same mistake that you made. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna summarize again um, regarding what's needed um, in order to change your ways. The first step is accountability, owning up to the situation that you have a problem. Number two, that you have the desire to change. In other words, you have the will to change. You have the you want to change. You see for yourself that that you want to be a better person. Number three, develop a plan to resolve the issue. In other words, okay, I see this action. I don't want to do this action. So I'm going to plan a strategy or steps to not to repeat the same action. Then the next thing, to those who you have hurt, you are going to apologize. Okay. Which means you're gonna say to the people that you were hurt by your actions, I'm sorry that my words or my thoughts or my actions cause you grief. And then what you're gonna do is with your actions, you're gonna show that you're not going to perform the hurtful action or the thought hurtful word. And which leads to the next step, which is avoiding negative influences. I don't know for those who, okay, I'm sure those of us who have parents, they always warn us regarding certain people not to associate because there will be a negative influence. Okay. Um, our parents or those who gave parental guidance did not do that to be party poopers. They did it because they were concerned and they wanted us to mature and be responsible individuals. So, and I have been talking for almost an hour. So, I have a couple of questions. Okay. Do you think what I say makes sense? Okay. Or do you think maybe I don't know what I'm talking about? Okay. But in any case, you all have the opportunity um, to to get on the panel. You also have the opportunity to share your point of view. Okay. If no one else joins the panel and no one else enter any comments, I'm going to wrap this up. Okay. And it happens that there'll be nights where I'm not going to have a great deal of activity. Okay. But the reality is this: if I was to do this at 8:15, basically, I wouldn't have anyone come um, in the chat. That is a reality, okay? And that sometimes it can happen when you have multiple people who have streams at the same time. Okay. So in any case, let me just share with you the streams that I'm going to be discussing. So this Thursday at 8:15 p.m. Um, I'm gonna be discussing the topic why people choose not to marry. Okay, you have people that for whatever reason choose not to marry. Maybe it's because they don't see themselves being tied down to one person. Maybe these are people that have negative influence experiences when it comes to marriage because there wasn't a toxic marriage or things of that nature. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion regarding why people choose not to marry. It's going to be non-judgmental, okay? And the saying is, if it doesn't apply, let it fly, okay? Okay. So I'm going to be having that discussion. Uh, and then we'll deal with her there. And then on Friday, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have a discussion regarding more stupid games. Okay. Oh Lord, it seems like there is not that I mean there's a non-stop number of people who perform stupid deeds. Okay. Whether it be a Karen, whether it be a Dusty, whether it be a 304. Okay. I'm going to try my best to have show examples of both male and female doing stupid things. So, you know, so that's going to be the discussion. And let's see. And I will have it at 10:30 p.m. So what I'm gonna um now next week the schedule is going to be a little different. Why? Okay, I'm gonna be honest because I'm not gonna be doing any streams on Tuesday. So what I might do is maybe a Monday stream, a Wednesday stream, and a Friday stream. Monday stream will probably be at 9 o'clock. Wednesday stream will be the normal 8:15, and my Friday stream it's gonna be probably 10:30. So, in any case, of course, all of you are more than welcome to watch this on the playback. Okay. Maybe it would have been better for me to do the stream tomorrow, but then again, um, someone else will probably do a stream. So it is what it is. Um, I've tried to give a honest appraisal regarding what people need to do in order to change their ways. Okay. But when everything is said and done, you need to admit that you have an action where you want to change. You need to have the desire to change and you need to have the discipline to apply the path, to apply the actions which are needed in order to change your ways. So, so with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up because you know what, it is what it is, and you know what, I'm not bitter. I mean, that nights look not every night you can have a stream where you have a panel of eight where you have a lot of people in the chat. So hey, that's one of those. Hopefully, people will catch it on the playback. Well, it all who did catch it, either live or the playback. I do appreciate Irby and Keisha um, for acting, for being in the chat. So that being said, I am going to wrap this up because I said my piece and I said what needed to be said. So hopefully this stream has been of some benefit to all of you. In any case, I'm going to call this a night. Thank you very much for all those who did catch it live or catch it on the playback. And of course, all are welcome to enter your comments. Just keep it respectable. So that being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Wishing all of you a good night. Take care and peace.
Be strong.